You are listening to the H.P. Lovecraft Literary Podcast at hppodcraft.com. Today we cover the last part of the live show in Leeds. This is the question and answer portion of the show.
So with that, would we want to offer questions? Do we want to do?
Certainly we can do that. Before we do get into that, we can maybe, if there's anything you guys want to ask us about, we'll see how that goes. But I did want to mention we have some merchandise in the back.
Oh, right, absolutely. I totally want to forget. Graham, this wonderful artist, he has done these limited prints of a poster of this show. And it's only available here. You can't buy it any other time. It's for this show tonight.
If you look back there, he's holding one up right now. They're screen printed, hand numbered.
Yeah.
You can check out his website at armyofcats.com, and he's done lots of great local show posters and that kind of thing. And he did one for us, and it's just so cool. I can't wait to take it home and get it up on the wall.
Yes.
So if you want to pick up one of those, please do. And there's also various, which I'm sure some of you checked out, various role-playing game things.
Yes, and Miskatonic shirts and Arctic Expedition things as well.
If anyone in the room is an actual card-carrying member of the H.P. Lovecraft Historical Society, please see me after the show, because I brought these stamps that I'm trying desperately to give away to actual members of the society. So see me if you have your card. Finally get somebody stamped.
Okay, so we said merchandise?
We said the merchandise is...
Said thanks?
We said thanks?
I
think that's it.
Yeah, I think that's it. So, we'll see if anybody wants to talk to us. Anybody in the audience have any specific thoughts, questions, anything about the story that we missed that you maybe thought we should mention? Raise a hand and then we'll call on you. Is that how this works?
Yeah, that's exactly how it works. People seem to be a little shy. That's oh, hello.
Down
here.
Just a thought that occurred to me. You know how you said Schwartz was involved in Batman?
Yes.
Do you think that might have been where Arkham Asylum came from in Batman? Or have I got that completely wrong?
I'm going to repeat that just because I don't think people at home could hear the question being asked. The audience member has asked, do you think that Schwartz taking over DC and becoming the editor had anything to do with Arkham Asylum being the place where the criminals were kept in Batman? And I think, yeah.
I'm going to say yes.
Absolutely. That is a direct threat to Lovecraft to DC Comics. So yeah, that probably is exactly where it came from.
Yeah, something to do with it.
Good job.
Spontaneous scholarship right here.
Yeah, there you go.
Awesome.
Anybody else?
Anybody else? Oh, hello. There's something back there.
Hi, yeah, it wasn't necessarily about the story. I'm just wondering, will you guys exhaust all the Lovecraft stories? Are you thinking of carrying on with anything else, like maybe working on M.R. James or Edgar Allan Poe or something like that?
Well, there is an M.R. James podcast, actually.
There is.
It's somewhat the same format as ours, which I would recommend. I can't think of the website off the top of my head, but there's a couple of English guys, and they're very funny. We're not exactly sure what we're going to do yet. Likely it'll be a lot of different type of things, type of stories. But as we wrap up these, we're going to do a couple of episodes, just what have we learned from doing this since 2009. I don't know if it's that much, so I don't know how long that'll take.
Exactly.
Episodes. But when we do that, we'll make an announcement about what we're going to do going forward. But we'll continue to podcast in some way, shape, or form.
Yes, we're going to keep
It's really fun to do, and it's one of the few things that have going on in my life. So I don't think that maybe too honest. But no, we do enjoy it, and we want to keep doing it. And likely it'll involve lots of different weird fiction authors.
Yes.
But thank you for being interested.
Yeah, I think what we're leaning towards is probably doing things, covering stories that inspired Lovecraft. So some Algernon Blackwood, some Arthur Mackin, Chambers, and we'll just kind of, whatever strikes our fancy, kind of rhyme and reason.
Do the letters.
Oh, and we'll probably go back and do some of the letters and poetry and that kind of thing. But it's been important to us to... We had that sort of list of stories from HPLovecraft.com that was listed chronologically, and that's what we've been going off of. So we're going to conclude that, and that's sort of the end of the stunt that we've been pulling, and then we'll move on to the
We'll evolve into something else, but we'll still be.
It's important to me that the material that we talk about is free, and you don't have to go out and you have to buy a bunch of books or search around shops or that sort of thing. So likely we'll look at things that are in the public domain or that you can get for free on the Kindle or something like that, so that everything's accessible.
Yeah.
And that's as much as we know about it right now, because honestly we haven't decided.
Because honestly, we still haven't figured it out. Any other questions about anything? Yes?
Me?
Yeah.
I was wondering, what are your favourite Lovecraft stories and which is your least favourite for all of you?
Wow. Well, I can say The Shadow of Aaron Smith is my favorite Lovecraft
yeah.
story. It was before we started the show, and then I replaced it with a lot of others along the way, but at the end of the day, I think that's still the one I like the most, or at least it's like the one I like to share with other people the most. There's been so many bad ones that I don't know if I can tell you which one of those, bugged me the most, but it might have been that one where he was with the cosplay, what was the one where
yeah.
The guy walks him through New York, and then he winds up taking off his outfit, and he's dressed in 17th century gear, and then some Native Americans show up, and they're ghosts, and that was just, oh boy, that was a tough one. So that's for me.
For me, I'm still, it changes on a daily basis, but I keep going back to the Call of Cthulhu. It feels like it's got all the great elements. It's got cults, it's got insanity, it's got giant monster, it really has that horrific ending to it, and just some of the best, most memorable lines of Lovecraft's works.
Well, the most memorable line.
Yeah, absolutely. So I would say that's my favorite and least. Chad, you're right. There's a lot of terrible ones, but I gotta say the street is.
Yeah.
That sucks. Yeah. It's terrible.
Ghost houses.
I would have said, a long time ago, I would have said Color Out of Space. I think it's the creepiest one of all the ones I read back when I started reading Lovecraft a long, long time ago. That was the one that I found just the scariest and weirdest and creepiest. Over the many years since then, though, I think like Chris, I'm settling in on the Call of Cthulhu just because of all of his stories. It's the one that has been the biggest springboard into lots of other fun stuff that I really enjoy. So, I would say Color Out of Space is his best one, but the one I actually like the best is Call of Cthulhu because it inspired so many other fun things and so adventurous and the gaming and the movies and all the other stuff that we've done in the meantime. I don't spend a lot of time thinking about the worst ones, but The Street is definitely a candidate.
Yeah, it's bad.
The White Ship too.
The White Ship?
The White Ship.
I like that one now. I came around on that one.
What?
I really want to like the Dream Quest of Unknown Kadath, but it is so hard to get through.
I love that.
I gotta love it too.
Yeah, and
I want to love it very much, but
man, it's the craziest. The story itself is really awful. It's hard to be hard on it because, again, it wasn't published and he didn't rewrite it and it was just sort of in a drawer. But the ideas, the cat's flying into the moon.
No, it's got a lot of great stuff.
And it's just insane.
Oh God, it's the best. They crowd around him and jump off the moon.
It's a cat rocket.
It's a cat rocket. I never.
Who else?
I never in a million years would have came up with a cat rocket.
Amazing.
And the moon beasts and the war with the ghouls.
And there's the image of the ship flying over the edge of the waterfall out into space. All that stuff. It's really gorgeous.
It's pretty crazy, but
are you coming around?
Yeah.
Like I said, I want to love it. I just sometimes don't.
Give yourself permission, Andrew.
Okay. I love it.
Changing lives.
Yeah.
Anything else from the audience? Anything else anybody wants to ask? Yeah, way in the back.
What would you say is your favourite moments in terms of what's also really creepy, all Lovecraft stuff?
Oh boy.
Oh wow.
Favorite creepy moment? Would that be a favorite summary
creepy
of what you
moment?
asked? Favorite creepy moment in all of Lovecraft?
Yeah.
The things, oh my gosh, boy, that's hard picking out just one really. I have to say, Shadow over Innsmouth, the part where he's in the room and they're trying the door.
Mm-hmm.
That whole
the
deep ones are outside and they're trying to, and he's running through, just trying to get through. That's really intense.
Maybe the thing on the doorstep, the end of that story, when you begin to realize what the thing on the doorstep is and what it took to get the thing to the doorstep, that's pretty horrible.
Oh, right.
But also, there's everything that happens to the poor Gardner family in the Colorado space is pretty.
It's pretty terrible.
Pretty horrifying.
And the stuff in Kerwin's pits in the case of Charles Dexter Ward, that stuff is pretty horrendous and creepy.
The thing that really and we say creepy, it's almost an intellectual creepiness. You think about it and you go, oh wow, that's really bad. Like Color Out of Space, it just disturbs me what happened to those poor people. But actually, that kind of scared me is that fragment, the thing in the moonlight. Where it's just a little retelling of one of Lovecraft's dreams, where he went to sleep and he finds himself in this weird rail yard, and then off in the distance, the engineer for the train is coming. And as he approaches, he suddenly drops to all fours. And
I remember one night when I was in college, a long, long time ago, I was walking home. It was late one night. I had been at the library studying or whatever, and I was headed home. And my residence hall was on the other side of a big soccer field, and this was 1 o'clock in the morning or something. I was all by myself walking home, and someone was standing out in the middle of the soccer field, just standing there. And it was like, why? I noticed them, and I couldn't see the face. They had like a hoodie on or whatever, but there was some creepy person just standing, and I like stopped in my tracks, and they started coming toward me, and it was like, yeah, it was like totally freaky. Whatever's going on right here, right now, is wrong.
Did you run?
All of the hackles rose. It was like,
did you run?
He like staggered towards me for a little ways, and then staggered, and then turned around and left, and it was terrifying. It was a very
hold on. So he shambled in a way.
By the way,
he loped so awkwardly. It was very unnerving.
It sounds like.
Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah. It could have just been a drunk guy if it was a cop.
Yeah, in retrospect, of course, it was just some drunk guy.
No, but at that moment.
But at the time, it was very creepy.
Yeah, certainly. And then thinking the thing on the doorstep, he puts his head up to the moon and howls, and his face is just this
long tentacle.
Which
it's really disturbing.
Thing in the moonlight.
Thing in the moonlight.
Thing in the moonlight. Yeah. Great, thank you.
I'm going to check to see if internet has any questions for us. Paul?
A question for Andrew and HPLHS, actually. Do you know what your next movie adaptation
I've heard people asking that. Just in the,
we are considering several possibilities, but we have not yet decided on one. We are still technically working on Whisper in Darkness, trying to get it out there into the world. We also have a few more episodes of Dark Adventure Radio Theater that we have in the works, and we want to get those done next. So, although we are talking about what the next movie might be, it's not something that we're going to start shooting next month or even anytime particularly soon. So we still have some time to think about that. But we've talked about Shadow Out of Time. We've talked about the Challenge from Beyond. That's a good one. We've talked about what I would like to do now that it seems that Del Toro's version of At the Mountains of Madness is on the back burner again. I would like us to grab that property and run with it. We'll see what happens.
Oh, please do. I would love to
It's
see
public domain. Now, for those of you that don't know, Andrew directed the Call of Cthulhu silent film. Yeah. And was the producer and co-writer?
Co-writer, yeah.
Producer and co-writer of the Whisper in Darkness film that came out just last summer.
Technically, this about a year ago, like February, it's hit the festival circuit.
But it's been available on DVD.
It's been available on DVD since Christmas, just before
Since Christmas. Oh, okay, so not even a year.
Yeah.
Months. Yeah. So that is also out there, and I think recommended.
Chris had something to do with both those films as well.
Yeah. Maybe a little something. That's it? Okay, is there anything else from anybody out in the... Oh, yes.
I was just wondering, what would be, your top mythos stories, things, not by...
Outside of Lovecraft?
Yeah, things that were inspired by him,
Question is, what would be our top mythos stories related to Lovecraft but not related by Lovecraft?
Yeah.
That's a tough
The games, I can answer that one right off the top of my head. It is The Fungi from Yaveth, which is a game by Keith Herbert.
Oh.
The first Call of Cthulhu game I ever played, funnest game I ever played, totally hooked me, and I think almost all the games that Keith wrote were fantastically good.
Chad?
I honestly, I would hate to say a favorite because there's so few that I've read. I've got some Ramsey Campbell on my Kindle for the plane ride home. I'm going to start dipping into that, and I know he's quite good.
Yeah.
I liked the Stephen King, Jerusalem's Lot. I read when I was in junior high, and that was quite.
I read some of Clive Barker stuff that was directly, but but I haven't read any Pugmire.
No.
I haven't read any Ramsey Campbell.
Mm-hmm.
I'm really ignorant when it comes to the other mythos writers.
But I do really enjoy the King in Yellow collection by Robert Chambers.
Well, yes. I mean,
it predates Lovecraft, but he used a lot of his things from it.
I've read it. I've absolutely.
The Repair of Reputations is one story, and there's another one called The Yellow Sign, and both of those are really excellent. And they're public domain if you haven't read them, you want to look them up.
And I really like The Great God Pan and the White People, also by Arthur Machen. So those are really
Novel of the Black Seal too, which was very influential on Whisper in Darkness. Is pretty good.
Yeah. So
So okay, we do know a few of them.
but that's not because those are pre-mythos. There
Sure,
was no
but
myth-
they're in the,
yeah.
you know.
But those are the things that I've really dug, and I'm always dubious. I mean, I've read some Derelith, and I think we've made our feelings on that clear on the show. That it just doesn't work for me.
Yeah.
And so I've kind of been hesitant to read people's Lovecraftian stuff.
That may be why, actually, because I don't know if they still do it, but they used to publish Derelith stories under the name H.P. Lovecraft.
Right.
So I get them sometimes from people as gifts, and I'd open it up, this is terrible, what's going on? You know, and then I realized that they were just ideas suggested by Lovecraft, and he'd taken them in his own direction, and they weren't that good. But, look, he did a lot of good
in my
things.
opinion, and your opinion, Jay.
But Derleth started Arkham House, right?
He did, yeah, I don't know. If it wasn't for him, we wouldn't be having this podcast right now.
Hey, and Arkham House is the first people to publish Ray Bradbury, and he's probably my favorite author, so I'm very happy about that.
Wow, yeah, I didn't know that.
I guess that undercuts us doing this podcast. I probably shouldn't have said that again. Something I would have cut. But at least I haven't cursed yet, so that's good.
Is there anything else anybody wants to know? Yes.
Okay.
Actually, building on this gentleman's question, I was wondering whether any of you have read the Courtyard of the Neonomicon to Alan Moore.
I have read that. I talked a little bit about it on Paul's show that we do, News from Dakotas, which is kind of just a general Lovecraftian news podcast. It's pretty good. You should check it out. And I talked about it a little bit. Chad, you haven't read it yet.
I read The Courtyard, but Neonomicon, they're back there.
Yeah, there are copies of them sitting on the table.
Yeah. It's
I haven't read Neonomicon.
Man,
But it seems like it's pretty dirty.
it's dirty understating it. It's very deprived.
Deprived?
Depraved?
Depraved.
Depraved. Again, I would have edited that out. Depraved. It's very depraved. There's some really cool ideas. If you like Alan Moore, he really kind of takes Lovecraft stuff and adds a new dimension to it, which I really appreciate. However, there's this, I don't want to spoil anything for people who can read, but there's a very graphic, violent scene in there that lasts far too long, and I don't quite understand what the point of being is focused on this.
That's Alan Moore that asked the question.
Oh, sorry, Mr. Moore.
But let me ask, have you read it? Did you like it?
I'm most of the way through the Neonomicon, and I've just hit the bit that made you go.
Yes.
It's made me go as well.
Yeah, okay.
Yeah, it's one of those where it's horrific, and I've heard Alan Moore in an interview talk about. He said it's the most horrific thing that he's ever written, and because part of me thinks that maybe it was some weird fantasy, like it felt like it was just lingered on too long. But when he talks about it, he says that it is the most horrific thing he's ever written, and it still disturbs him. And I can see that being I agree with him, it's really disturbing. And it's definitely not something you want to show anybody that is even remotely squeamish. I would never give it to a teenager or anything like that.
Leave it lying around on the coffee table.
No, it's very graphic and really violent in a sexual kind of fashion.
So I'll be picking up a copy soon.
But if you're not squeamish, I say it's really cool and there's a lot you can get out of it. But if you're even kind of squeamish, you might want to steer clear of it. So that's my feelings on it, but these guys haven't checked it out.
No.
Anything else?
Oh, wow.
All right,
Okay.
action. Well,
Let's go.
yeah.
What do you guys like to do when you're not podcasting?
All right. What do we like to do when we're not podcasting? Chad?
Well, I have a job, and that takes up a lot of my time. And then Heather and I do a lot of theater around Los Angeles. I spend time doing that. We met at the Second City Theater, so we do comedy and that kind of thing. So, I spend time doing that.
Right.
I write a lot.
You write a little? Yeah. Chad and I just have stories in the Lovecraft Anthology Volume 2, which is out now. You can get it in the back. It's also in the back. And we're going to be doing a signing here or there at the Traveling Man on Saturday. And then we're going to be giving yet another talk here. So if you're in town and you want to check that out, we're going to talk about different things than we're talking about.
Right, we'll be talking about adapting Lovecraft.
Adapting Lovecraft stories. But what I also like to do for fun, I'm really into tabletop role-playing games like Dungeons & Dragons, Call of Cthulhu. I play lots of different ones, and I just did it since I was a kid, and I've got a group here in Leeds, and it's super fun. I'm working on a graphic novel that I'm writing and drawing, which is a sci-fi kind of thing. Hopefully I'll get done with that this summer.
And we've got a graphic novel coming out later this year,
we have
Deadbeats, which we were heavily advertising for a while. And
Which-
that is art by Ian Colbard.
Oh yeah, Ian Colbert, who's Ian? No. He was going to show up, but the weather scared him. Yeah. No, Ian.
He didn't come?
No, Chad, he didn't come. Pull it together, dude. Pull it together. But Andrew, what do you like to do for fun?
I design fonts. I spend a lot of my time designing fonts.
Which we saw one of your fonts today.
Yeah, it's weird. I saw a couple in Stockholm on signs, on stores, and we drove back. I think it was a restaurant, the one we saw today. And my partner Glenn and I just got a dog, so that's gonna change our lives, I'm sure. He's an adorable little dog that we're learning how to take care of, and relax.
Watch a lot of TV and movies.
Yeah.
Exactly. There was another question.
Yeah, that's it.
Yeah, sure.
Yeah, I don't think you might have slightly touched on this already. The role-playing games, like kind of my gateway drug into Lovecraft.
Yeah.
When I first exposed to, I think it's called Children of Lorna people.
Yeah.
Sure.
At my depressing age. But is that something you ever think about talking about as like an offshoot to the podcast, as a one-off, to talk about all that kind of myriad influence, not just the role-playing game, but all, how Lovecraft kind of pops up in unexpected places?
Yes. Okay, so the question was, I'll try and be a little concise about it. It was just talking about how Lovecraft inspired all of these other things like the role-playing game and music. There's a lot of music that's Lovecraft inspired. And just, we touch upon this a little bit in the show every once in a while, but he asked about devoting a whole episode to it.
Yeah, of course. I mean, we could, but Paul and Chris have a show called News from Dakotas, where you do cover those kinds of things.
Yeah, and Paul's show is specifically, the Ensemble show is about the Call of Cthulhu role-playing game and role-playing and other Lovecraft things, but that's really where it stemmed from, right, Paul?
That's right.
So if you want to know about that stuff. But for me, yeah, that was my gateway drug to Lovecraft. I played the role-playing game. I remember my friend, I think I've told the story, Jason Woodburn said, "Hey, you like Dungeons & Dragons? Play this game." And I'm like, "Call it what?" And he goes, "Yeah, you play investigators in the 1920s.
Sounds fascinating.
And now look at it.
Yeah, I know.
I'm just saying.
Yeah. So, and I know lots of people that, I mean, honestly, I think the argument has been made that part of Lovecraft's popularity is from the role-playing game. That
I think his, the popularity that came to him after about 1982. Yeah.
Definitely.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
And I was in a crappy garage band, and we played songs about vampires and werewolves and stuff like that.
Yeah.
And then you had us over to play Call of Cthulhu, and suddenly all our songs were about snake men and tentacles.
Tentacles and all
Speaking
that
of which, I was talking to these guys earlier about how you used to put on a snake man costume and dance for us. They wanted to know if you were in the band. I was like, no, but he was a go-go dancer. Which is true.
It is true. When I went to school in Pittsburgh at the Art Institute, and I studied special makeup effects. So I had developed this prosthetic that was a lizard man prosthetic, and
Oh, I'm sorry, I said snake man.
whatever, reptilian. It looked kind of like V, it looked like one of the V faces.
It was cool.
And I had this prosthetic sitting around, and they're like, "Hey, you should, get kind of do a dance or whatever."
Yeah, we weren't very good, so we needed things like that to distract the audience.
So I had a black I had this prosthetic on my face. It was just a facial prosthetic, so I didn't have like a whole head or anything. So I wore this cowl over the rest of my face, so you can just head, so you can just see my face.
Mm.
And then you guys, you can't just dance. So you've got
Oh, that's right. We had
you
big
got
metal.
a big steel drum that you would have gasoline or something in. It was empty, and I had metal pipes. So I came out and just smashed on these. I'm not a drummer.
Yeah.
No, not at all. I'm
Just a dude.
I'm just
I'm just a dude wearing a snake man mask.
So yeah, I did that for a few shows, and then I kind of evolved into I was a disco zombie.
Disco zombie after that. Yeah.
This is before the zombie craze really took off again, too.
But well after disco.
Yes. lot of good disco.
True.
In fact, I think part of that song was about how disco was undead.
Disco's undead.
Yeah.
That was our premise. Wow, that's
Yeah.
that's very clever. That's why we sold no records.
So that's
But
something.
that was a good mythos-related act.
Yeah.
Lost to the ages. Anything else, guys?
Oh gosh,
I didn't expect to go this long. I mean, thanks so much for staying with us. And
just last, before we get done here, if you're interested, please pick up one of those posters. And help support us and deal with all this stuff. We'll sign them, we'll hang out and sign those posters if you buy one.
Yeah.
And afterwards, we have to pack up the stuff, Chad and I, and get it all out into the car. But then we're all heading over to the Fab Cafe.
Yeah.
They're on the table back there. We've got little maps that show you how to get from here to the Fab Cafe if you don't know where it is. Now,
This is walking distance, right?
Walking distance, yeah, you walk there. It's kind of a sci-fi themed bar place. It's really cool, and we're just gonna hang out there. So if you want to just hang out with us,
I'll bring along some of the sanity stuff, and if people want to come to the Fab Cafe, maybe we can
absolutely
test people's sanity there at the Fab Cafe.
Yeah, we'll do some sanity testing, and just get a chance to just chat with you guys, one-on-one a little bit, and because I mean, wow,
Here we all are. So
we're full of people that like the show. That's awesome. That's it.
Agreed. Okay.
All right. So
well, thanks everybody.
With that, I want to thank Corin, Zero.
Maybe not. No.
I want to thank Corin from Zeitgeist Zero. Great job. Wonderful on the
Thank
sound.
you.
And I want to thank Paul and the internet.
Yes, thank you.
I especially want to thank Paul.
I want to thank Andrew Leman for taking this time from his busy trip to come to Leeds and spend time with me and do this show. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Rachel, and thank you, Heather, for all of your support, and Heather for doing the show tag in the beginning. Really appreciated that.
And with that, I am Chris Lackey.
I'm Chad Pfeiffer.
And this has been the HP Lovecraft Literary Podcast.
At hppodcraft.com. Now a bit quiet for about 10 minutes.
hppodcraft.com.
All right, thanks, everybody.
Thank you very much.
And that concludes our coverage of the Live and Lead show from April 4th. I want to thank Corin Zero of Zeitgeist Zero for all of his music and hard work. I also want to thank Paul MacLean of yogsothoth.com for him rocking the internet for us. Also, Andrew Leman for making his way to merry old England. And I'll thank Chad Pfeiffer for just being a cool guy. Yeah, why not? Also, those posters that we said were only available at the show, well, that wasn't true. We actually have got some of them left over. So if you're interested in having one of these rad, special, unique posters, just send us an email, which you can find on our contact page at our website. We'll be back in a couple weeks. We're taking some time off to get some stuff set up to have one last big push to finish up all of Lovecraft stuff. So we're going to be working hard over the next few months here. But we're going to be back with a triple feature. Never done that before, I think. And the three will be the last of the Barlow stories that HPL did with him. And one last thank you to the entire audience at our Live and Lead show for making that experience totally amazing. We had a great time over at the Fab Cafe afterwards, and I want to thank the Traveling Man for hosting the show. It's a great comic book store. You can go to their stores in Newcastle, Manchester, Leeds, and York. Speaking of which, I'm going to be up in Newcastle this weekend signing the Lovecraft Anthology Volume 2 on Saturday the 28th. I'll be there at 1, and at 3 I'll give a talk about adapting Lovecraft, which has been so far successful. People seem to enjoy it. So if you're anywhere in the Newcastle area, please come on up or down to Newcastle and come see me. It'd be great. And with that, I'm Chris Lackey, and you've been listening to the HP Lovecraft Literary Podcast at hppodcraft.com.
hppodcraft.com.